So what we have here is what we usually call a miter saw, although this is not a standard miter saw. A standard miter saw just cuts straight across the wood doing a cross cut, or anywhere from 45 to 90 degrees in either direction. However, this is what we call a compound sliding miter saw because it can do a little bit of extra stuff. So when you come up to the saw, first thing you're going to do is you're going to see that it's locked into position to where it's keeping it safe. And it's also probably unplugged. You're going to want to plug it in first, okay? Second thing you're going to do is come over to the side over here and pull out this little silver plug on the side, which will allow the saw to come up. Okay, now, today we can see that there is a red laser right here that shows where the blade will cut. Okay, I don't want to have my hand anywhere near that laser when it is electrified or cutting. So I'm going to always try to keep my hands outside of this metal circle and away from this, okay? So, now sometimes you'll walk up and you might not see that laser on. There's a switch right here that shows where the laser goes, or the power for the laser, and now the laser is not on anymore. However, that is not a power switch, okay? I want to repeat that again. This switch is not a power switch. If I pull the trigger, the saw still works, okay? Do not fool yourself into thinking that just because the laser's not on, that means the saw is not on, okay? So if the laser happens to not be on, that means someone who didn't pay attention during training turned it off thinking that they were turning the saw off, or the saw is just not plugged in, one or the other, okay? Sometimes there will be a lot of sawdust that blocks the laser a little bit too, so if you take your thumb and go back here, you can clean the sawdust off. Okay. So, first thing I'm going to do when I want to use this saw is go and get some safety glasses. So let me do that. Anytime you are using any of the power tools, we expect you to have safety glasses on and have a teacher with you, watching you work. Okay? The teacher should not just be in the room, in the shop somewhere, or in the auditorium. They need to be here with you, supervising your cut. This is for your safety. Okay, so now I've put my safety glasses on. I have the saw raised up, and I have my 2x4 that I want to cut. Okay, so I'm going to put the 2x4 up against the fence. This metal area here is called a fence. Okay, if I have my saw or my wood too far out here, and I try to cut, this blade turns in this direction. That blade is going to grab the wood and thrust it into the fence. And if you know anything about momentum, it's not going to just go there and stop. It's going to bounce back out and take me out. And I will be injured. So I don't want to do that. So if I start firmly up against the fence, then I will start in a safe position already. Now, that doesn't mean I don't have to touch the wood. I still have to touch the wood. So I like to keep my hand way over to the side, especially because this board is long enough, it makes it easy. And my hand is all the way out here, up against the side of the fence here, and I'm holding it firm, okay? That is going to prevent this wood from kicking out at me, especially if someone bumps it, or if the blade gets dull, or if I happen to hit a screw or a bolt or something like that. So first, before I do that, I'm going to check my piece of wood, make sure that there are no screws or bolts inside of it. Typically, you will have a line marker, so right here, there's a line on my piece of wood, and I'm going to cut that line right now. I'm going to pull this trigger, allow the blade to get to full speed. Once the blade is at full speed, I'm going to go down with it. Now, this is not a push type of thing, okay? This is going to be fairly slow, but not super slow. Okay, it should take 3 or 4 seconds to cut through this 2x4 in this manner. Okay, so it doesn't need to take 10 seconds, but it also should not be a fast chopping motion. If you do that, you're going to get hurt. The blade is going to shoot out things at you, and possibly wood shooting out at you. So, I'm going to pull the trigger. two things with that. When I got done cutting, you'll notice that I pulled the blade back up before I pulled off the trigger. What that does is it makes sure that the blade is at full speed, okay? If the blade is not going at full speed and is pushing the wood, that causes a lot of extra friction, which makes the metal hot. And when metal gets hot, it gets malleable. And when metal gets malleable, then we no longer have a sharp blade anymore, okay? So 90 to 95% of your cuts are going to be that exact thing right here. Let me do it again, okay? I don't have a line this time, but I've got my hand on the outside. I've got it pushed up against the fence. I'm going to pull the trigger. Okay, now you'll notice I just did something else. I took my wood and I bumped out the scrap so my hand doesn't have to go into the laser. And I've got my scrap and it's going in the trash. Don't leave them on the table. It should be nice and clean when you do that. Okay, so that is a standard cut. Now, sometimes you're cutting something wider than a 2x4. For instance, I have this board here. Okay, I can cut this board. It is much wider than a 2x4. But I'm going to have to do a couple of things first. So, I said this is a compound sliding miter saw, which basically means it's a radial arm saw and a miter saw at the same time. So with these knobs over here, I can loosen them up, and now that gives me the ability to move the blade back and forth. Now on this piece of wood, it's actually a little bit longer than the saw. So we'll adjust that, we'll figure that out in a minute. But this is going to make well over 90% of the cut on this piece of wood right here just by doing that. So what I want to do is pull the blade all the way out as close to me as possible. And I'm going to start like a regular miter saw cut. Get the blade up to speed, go down, and then I will slowly push forward once it is there. The key is making sure you push all the way forward to where it does that. It stops itself. When you don't go all the way forward, it doesn't cut all the way through. So, pull it back. Again, I raise it and let it get stopped before I take my hand off the trigger, but it's also clear of the wood, okay? Never walk away when the blade is still spinning. So, on my board, now I have about 2.5 inches at the bottom that are not cut on this. So I'm going to flip it, and this is where the laser comes in very handy. I can line that laser straight up to my cut. I can see where it's at. And now I'm going to pull out again. And now I have cut my scrap of wood. Okay, since I'm just using this for demonstration purposes today, I'm also going to throw this one away. I don't need that. We'll see if this was the piece I was going to keep. Okay, so that is the primary purpose of this saw. However, there is much, much more, of course. So, like I said, many times we will want to cut an angle. Okay, most of our braces use a 45-degree angle. So, I'm going to do a 45-degree angle. So, if I turn this little knob right here, there's also a trigger. It's a 2-stage lock. I can pull the trigger up while the knob is turned, come over here to 45 degrees, let off the trigger, tighten the knob. Now, I can come back, grab my piece of wood, okay, let me get it over so my hand stays out of the way. And now, you can see that this laser is going at an angle, okay? If I go ahead and pull out, because I'm doing something longer than a normal 2x4, it's wider at an angle than it is straight across. Now you can see that I have a 45-degree angle. 45 plus 45 equals 90. That makes it straight. Okay, so if I take this, again, throw it in the trash. I'm going to make a brace. I'm going to flip this the opposite direction. Do the same thing. Go ahead and come back. Same thing again, but now if I take this and put that like that, 45 there, 45 here, if I had a 2x4 here, that would be a perfect 90-degree angle. Okay? Again, take my track, throw it away. Okay, one more thing. Loosen this back up, reset it back to 0. Okay? Now let's say I wanted to take this and make an angle going this way. Okay? An angle going that way. A little bit different. Okay, so now I have to go around to the back of the saw to do some work. So, at the back of the saw, there is a knob back here, or a handle, and it will loosen, and it will allow the blade to go side to side. However, if you look at this fence, there has been damage to the fence. Okay, we need to first pull out the fence. Okay, we don't want that getting damaged by us trying to cut through a piece of metal because we turned the blade sideways. Okay, so I'm going to take this, loosen it up. On the side here, there is another gauge. Let's go ahead and do a 30-degree angle for today. Okay, and now I can lock that back down. Now, I can cut a 30-degree angle onto this board. So, same thing, get it up to speed. And now, I have an angled piece of wood the other direction. So I have angle this way, and I have angle that way.